Every few years, we are surprised in November by suddenly finding ourselves at Calvary and the crucifixion, Jesus dying on the cross. But if we are to consider the kingship of Jesus, we cannot consider that without the time when he took upon himself the crown of his kingship, the crown of thorns, and took his place on the throne of the cross, where he exercised his kingly saving power. The feast of Christ the King. What do kings do? Kings rule and reign over their subjects. They make and enforce laws. They hand down decisions. They command an army. That's any king. A truly good king loves his subjects, even when they don't like him. A good king calls people to order, especially when chaos threatens to disturb the peace of the kingdom. A good king ensures justice for his people, especially when his subjects are taking advantage of each other. A good king defends his people from harm, especially those too weak to defend themselves. But if we are to honor Jesus as king today, we'll need to even further expand our notion of kingship. If we look to Jesus as model, we find a king who defers to his subjects and calls his subjects not only to defer to him, but to one another. In Jesus, we have a king who surrenders all his royal wealth to his subjects, and then calls on them to count their wealth as a burden, not a boon, until and unless that wealth is shared freely with those who have none. In Jesus, we find a king who ascended to his throne by surrendering all his authority and power on the cross, and then calling his subjects to surrender themselves by laying down their lives in service of their neighbor. In Jesus, we have a king who calls his subjects to keep their eyes on a kingdom other than the realm that is theirs at the present moment, to keep their eyes on a reign of peace that is yet to come, but to live even now, in this moment, that peace which is yet to be. Just hours before the scene we heard in the gospel now, just hours before that, Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you a king?" Jesus answered Pilate. He said, "For this I was born. For this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to me." We honor Jesus as our King, our sovereign. We acknowledge his rule over our lives when we listen to his voice and attend to the truth of his word above any other word. We honor the rule of Jesus in our lives when, like him, we surrender our own authority in service of those who are poor and treated unjustly. We honor the rule of Jesus in our lives when we value his love as our greatest, most precious, costly possession. There are so many powers in my life and yours. So many powers competing to reign over, to to rule our lives. What kind of powers? The power of my own selfishness, the power of my poor choices, the power of my stress, my bills, my worries, my fears, my problems, the power of my anger and my resentments, my grudges and my envy, the power of my fantasies and my foolishness, my lust and my ambition, the power of what addicts me, my bad habits, my pride, my greed, the power of my desire for more power, for ever more power over others. All these realities in my daily life have power to rule my days and nights, my choices and my decisions, my thoughts, my plans, and my dreams. These realities seek to subject me to their own authority, challenging my allegiance and my loyalty to the reign of Jesus over my heart, over my thoughts, my love, and my life. Jesus frequently turned down the kingship, the crown people offered him, a crown of power. But he willingly took upon himself another crown, a thorny sign of the surrender of all his power for the sake, for the welfare, for the salvation of you and me. That is the truth to which he came to testify, the truth he calls us to listen to and to live. We Christians are citizens, then, of a kingdom founded on Jesus' rejection of kingship, at least kingship as the world understands it. We are citizens of a kingdom in which neither Joe Biden nor Donald Trump will ever be pretenders to the throne. Our sovereign is much greater. Only Christ the King has legitimate claim on my heart. And if it's not Jesus who is my King, then I have to ask, who is? What powers are ruling my life? So many realities and powers seeking to rule our hearts and our lives. Next Sunday is Advent. Christmas is just a month away. The commercial world has been gearing up for weeks, for months behind the scenes, poised to seduce us into a corner as far away as possible from the King of Kings and the Prince of Peace. Are we going to fall for all that again this year? For consumerism usurping our loyalty to Jesus? Will we easily forget that the little boy in Bethlehem grew up to be the Christ on Calvary? That the wood of the manger was replaced by the wood of the cross? Or will we do our best to keep this season as Jesus maintains his kingship? Not by buying and getting more and more for ourselves, but by surrendering, by giving away to others in need, as Christ gave away himself on the cross, our King, for us. It's not by accident that we worship week by week in the shadow of the cross, or that we call the supper we share at this altar the sacrifice of the Eucharist. Pray with me that as Jesus, our King, surrendered everything for us, we might surrender ourselves in love to him and to our neighbor, especially to those most in need of what you and I already have in abundance.